Hello and welcome to Mistakes Were Made. We are back at the dining room table, and today we are going to do our budget with me for the second pay period of August. That is going to cover the 16th through the 31st. Wow. Okay. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Let's get this noted as August 16 through 31. So first things first, we're going to be starting with Mr. M's paycheck. Now, he does get paid every other week. So August is a magic month, as people call it. He does get paid 3 times this month. So for this particular pay period, the paychecks on the 2nd and on the 16th will be covering this pay. Now, if we were technically going by when they fall, the one on the 16th should be lumped together with the one on the 30th, but we decided we wanted the double paycheck to fall in August rather than in September. So that said, we also have some changes that we've made regarding his paycheck as well. And that is because when his paycheck on the 2nd came in, it came in at $1,897.62. And if you've been following the channel, you know that because his pay has been fairly variable, we are trying to find a good generic kind of baseline to determine what the minimum pay we can count on every month, especially as we get closer to the point where my job goes away and we'll need to know how much money does the savings cushion that we've made need to shore up each month. So previously the expectation was the lowest that we should see should be at $1,900 each pay period, or it'll be more. So we've been basing things on $1,900. We had earlier, I think it was like $1,925, and then we got one that was less than $1,925, so we lowered it down to $1,900. Because we have received this one, which is under $1,900, we are recalibrating and we are going to make our baseline for his pay $1,875. So that does have ramifications in that if we take $1,875 and multiply it by 2, we will typically expect $3,750, whereas before we were basing it on $3,800. Not a huge difference, but it's a difference nonetheless. With our budget being $5,900, that means the cushion needs to be able to cover $2,150 each month rather than just $2,100. So this is really basically we want to create a baseline. There's a great chance that, this may be the only time we ever see a paycheck of his come in under $1,900, but we want to be prepared. We want to prepare for the worst and have that covered and have an expectation. And then if the pay is consistently higher than $1,875 going forward, that's just all for the better. So for these purposes, $1,897.62, that one has already come in and dropped. We are not yet at the end of the first pay period. Thus, we haven't hit the Friday where his second paycheck will come in, or even the Wednesday when we would see it come in early. So we don't know what that's going to be. We are going to use our new baseline amount of $1,875 though to come up with an expected or budget amount of $3,772.62. Now, similarly for my pay, it is Sunday the 11th. So I get paid on the 15th and the end of the month. My paycheck obviously has not arrived yet, and we're still a little too early for it to show as pending. The baseline that we have created for that is $2,225. So that's what we're going to use for these purposes. Typically, the first pay period of the month for the 15th is when I would see any incentive pay. I don't know what that will look like, if anything, this month. So again, we're just going to keep it at the baseline and hope that there will be a little bit more of a boost for that. Miscellaneous income, none to be expected. Etsy, we do not budget anything in there because you just don't know. And we did have a week very recently during this current pay period, the second pay period of, during the second pay period of July, I believe it was, where we did not have any Etsy income come in. Now, as far as the budget rollover from the first pay period, we are not at a point yet where I feel comfortable with the amounts we are expecting as they have, changed throughout the pay period to say for sure what we're going to have come in. So we're going to leave it at just a generic $200. We've had a little bit of upheaval during this last pay period, which we will definitely go into when we do our budget recap. So now we're going to add all these together. We've got the $37.72.62. We're going to add the $2,225 to that, and then the $200. And that gets us to a total of $6,197.62. Okay, so just like we have a magic month for our pay, we also have a magic month for our mortgage. We pay our mortgage every other week. What that does is it breaks it up into 26 equal payments, and at the end of the year, that ends up equaling a full extra payment towards the mortgage. Now, there might be an argument for, well, if you're trying to get out of debt and you're not trying to spend extra money, why do the payments that way? And that's a legitimate question. One is it's an auto payment setup thing. Yes, we could change it, but it's just easier to leave it in place. And two, we already did back off of extra payments with the individual payments themselves. We are not paying 120 or whatever it was that we were when this all first started, extra every paycheck. So keeping the cadence in place, which matches up to Mr. M's pay, so it's not hurting us really, just made sense as a good compromise. So typically that is $875 for the pay period, but since we were going to have two, it'll be $1,750 that comes out this time. We are in the second pay period, so these ones do not get handled. We have received both the bills for the PGE and the natural gas, and those came in at $142.62. And then the natural gas was awesome. It was $25.91. We do not do waste management during this particular month. We are going to expect 101. Now this one is going to be one of the kind of generic ones. It's usually like $89 and some change. We'll just do the 90 because we won't know exactly what that's going to be. Oh, I should have kept that $1,750 in place. So let's add this all up. 62 plus 25, 91 plus 101 plus 90 brings us a total of $2,109.53. Let's subtract that from our $6,197.62, which leaves us with a remaining income of $4,088.09. All right. Next, we've got emergency fund, which we do fund during the second pay period. We're going to skip the extra job loss savings that comes in after we've accounted for all of our required costs. Again, we're going to do a generic amount for the buffer. We'll fill in the cents after we've done all the calculations. So that gives us a total of $225. We will take our thing and we'll add 225 to that. So our remaining income is $3,863.09. Now next we are getting into our cash envelopes. As a general rule, these don't change all that much. Some of them are paid during the first pay period, some during the second, and some during both. So we've got $15 for AAA. This will be changing. The AAA membership is due, expires in September, but they charge the card, charge our account 3 weeks prior. So that will come out in August. I checked and the cost was $147, I believe. And we are already have saved more than we need for that. So we are going to actually bring this $15 per month down to $13 per month. And even that over the course of 12 months will be more than $147. But I felt it was important for us to make sure as closer or as close as possible without giving up too much wiggle room in case they do raise prices. So it'll be a slight savings, a little bit less money that we're having in the budget every single month. So anyway, car maintenance, we are not doing Christmas, gets $12. Clothing gets $5. That I messed that up so it doesn't look like a 12 anymore. There we go. Dining out and entertainment and garden yard don't get anything. Gas gets $100. Gifts gets $5. Giving doesn't get any. Groceries gets $200 because that is $100 a week. Health gets $10. Household does not get anything. Licenses gets $15. Now this is another one that is likely going to change. We have already hit the expected amount needed for next year's licensing costs. Then the year after that should be $150. The current goal is to save up $250, but I'm not sure that that's really something that I want to do at this point. And when I brought that up during our very recent video for cash stuffing, we did get a great suggestion to meet a goal in the middle, like $200 or something like that, and then anything extra we can put towards taxes, because I'm also not fully confident that we are saving enough in taxes for the Etsy income. So we're going to play around with that, but I think we're going to bring this down from $15 per pay period or $30 a month down to $11 per pay period or $22 a month. I'll have to take a look at it again just to make sure that those numbers do feel right, but that is an adjustment that we are looking at. So even though this tends to be fairly static, we do need to make sure that we are being flexible and finding opportunities to refine the budget as appropriate. And that may mean we need to allocate more money to something, but it can also mean that we're going to allocate less money to something as well. Pets gets $160. Prime gets $12. I think this is another one we may be looking at as well, because the cost of it was not quite what I was expecting. Either that or we started out at a higher amount and so we've saved up more than we will really need by December. I'm going to have to look at it again. It could be that we'll be still keeping the $12 and it's just because of how we started this and when we started it and added it as a, excuse me, a cash envelope thing, that we felt we needed to to jumpstart the amount, and so that's why we're a little bit off. But we've got $20 for taxes, so we're going to add all of these together. We got 15 plus 12 plus 12 plus 5 plus 100 plus 5 plus 200 plus 10 plus 15 plus 160 plus 12 plus 20. That comes to a total of $566. And so we're going to subtract that from the remaining income that we had during the last section. So we'll subtract 3863, what is that, 09. And so we have $3,297.09 left in income. And now we're going to come over here to debt. I'm going to ignore that one because that is paid off. Hip hip hooray. Since this is the second pay period, we do have a $250 payment that goes to Discover. And then we have the second of two payments that go to Reflect, because Reflect is our snowball account, and the snowball dollar amount is at $976. We divide that up between the two pay periods. So this one is $488. Again, skipping the extra payment because we won't know until we get through the process. And that brings us to a total of, there we go, we're going to let the calculator do the math, 250 plus 488 is $738. And again, we will subtract the remaining income that we have of $3,297.09, which brings us to $2,559.09. We've got my allowance amount, which will be $30. So we'll just add that. So that brings us down to $2529.09. And then yard cleanup gets the $100 per pay period for this particular section, which is our longer term goals. So put 100 down here, and we just add 100 to that, and that brings our total to $2,429.09. Obviously, that is an amazingly large amount. That is because, of course, this is a magic month. So let's see what that means when we do our 75% for debt and our 25% for savings. Okay, so we're working with 2429.09 subtract 75% means we will have $607 to go to savings. So we go back to the 2429 and subtract the 607, and that will be $1,822 for debt. So let's do a couple of things before we go any further. We know that the expected extra cents is going to be $1, or it's going to be 9 cents. So we'll make the buffer amount $200.09, and the savings is supposed to be $607. So we'll fill that section in. Okay. Now, as you know, if you're familiar with the channel, we do triage this debt payment amount. I have a little quirk of how I want my payments to look. So when they go to the Reflect card, I want them to end in either $0, $25, $50, or $75. So with a total of $1,822 going to debt, that means $1,800 is going to go to Reflect, and we'll have $22 that goes to Discover. All right, so not too shabby. That's pretty cool. Obviously, there are certainly opportunities for things to change, whether that's unexpected costs coming in that might adjust this, or an increase in my pay for an incentive payment, as well as possibly the 1875 minimum that we're using as the second amount for Mr. M's pay for his magic month pay. That could come in higher. We're hoping it's not going to come in lower, because it can be very frustrating to have to kind of reconfigure things every single time, because you do want to make sure you're using the lowest amount of income when you're speculating about how your budget is going to turn out. But it's still, I think, an important exercise to do, just so that we aren't anticipating more money than we're actually going to have and then be scrambling because that expectation was incorrect. I would much, much rather lowball things and be pleasantly surprised when we have more money than the opposite. So, of course, anything that does result in an increase of money at the end of the pay period means an increase in what's going to go to savings and what's going to go to debt. And right now, our super focus is getting the opportunity for the extra debt payment to bring that balance for the Reflect card down to 0 by the end of September. We are still on track for that. If everything we've speculated, like on the budget spreadsheet that I keep, stays intact, and that's even with us having to have made adjustments to what the lowest expectation amount is for Mr. M's paycheck each pay period. But we'll see. It's going to be kind of tight, and that's why I'm really hoping that it's not going to come down any lower than 1875, and that we'll actually start to see things in the 1900 plus going forward, as well as the possibility for incentive. Another thing that I'm doing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more during our budget recap, is I am trying here and there to do no spend times. So this $30, we're budgeting it, but I'm trying to not spend it, just because that's another little extra boost to how much we'll have on the bottom line. So that is it. That is our budget with me for the 16th through the 31st. I am, I'm very pleased with where we're landing, and really it's all looking forward to September, and whether we will be in a position to have this goal, which is very audacious. It is an incredibly audacious goal to have this Reflect card paid off by the end of September, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So, as always, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, just anything you want to say, even if it's just saying hi, please note that down below. We'd really appreciate it if you would like, and if you would subscribe if you haven't already, so you can keep track of how things are going during these pseudo good times, and you can come and see how we weather things once the job goes away, and hopefully during the short period of time where I don't have a job, and see how we have to make any adjustments that might need to be made once I do find a new job. So that is that. And again, I want to thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next one.